Right, let's give you the markets update now, and the developments in world activity firmed and the JSE tracking its global counterparts. But the rand saw little change after weakening to near 4-month lows. The local currency still expected to remain under pressure. Let's speak now to Just One Lab founder Simon Brown, who joins us for some detail on the early trade at the JSE. Simon, good morning to you. So let's start with those global markets. The attempt at a rebound on the first day of this new week's trade. What's expected in today's session?
Morning, Polly. You're right. Yesterday was actually a good day. It started a little under the water, but we ended strong. We saw strong follow-through in the US, and that even came through this morning into Asia, sort of early morning ahead of our open. But as we've opened so far this morning, markets under pressure. The overall down about 0.25%. This is led predominantly by the industrials, Unaspas, Richemont, and the like. Your resources and financial stocks are red, but only ever so slightly, but certainly a red kickoff so far for the day.
Yeah. What more is there to be said about the performance of the rand, Simon, and couple that with other emerging market currency performances?
I have to say, I mean, you made the point. The rand at 4-month worst levels, currently trading 18.43.5 against the US dollar. It's only a little worse from where it was Friday afternoon when we got the announcement of the grey listing. At that point on Friday, we went out to 18.51, but we've kind of pulled back to this sort of 18.40, 18.44 level, which is an important point for the rand. We need to hold that. But if we look to the bigger picture, we have been seeing some US dollar strength. Weakened a bit yesterday, but again picked up. So we are seeing a broad basket of currencies, particularly the emerging market currencies, that are trading a little bit weaker over the last couple of days. I think in terms of the grey listing, it had been preempted. Traders had positioned themselves expecting that to happen. Hence, we saw the weakening more in advance, not so much in the days following.
Yeah, so the markets had priced in that grey listing. Let's keep the focus domestically, Simon, if we can. And today we're expecting the fourth quarter labour force survey. What's anticipated as unemployment in South Africa? We all know, stubbornly high.
Stubbornly high, and the truth is it will remain stubbornly high. The expectation is for a slight pickup in the number of employed people, a slight improvement, therefore, in the unemployment rate. The unemployment rate may be coming down to 31.5%, maybe 32%. And that last quarter, typically it's a better quarter for employment. Certainly you see retail and hospitality bringing in some extra staff over the holiday season. But of course the flip side of that was the load shedding we were experiencing. So we might have picked up some in retail and hospitality, but manufacturing, engineering, those spaces probably taking a bit of pressure there. So we'll see the trend that we saw for the first 3 quarters of last year continuing, which is a very small improvement in the overall unemployment rate.
Let's talk company news. A positive development in the telecoms sector as Nokia. When last did I hear that name, Nokia? All right. The signs, the Nokia signing a deal with MTN to expand the 5G in South Africa. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Nokia, we all know it from the phones of the 90s and the early 2000s, playing Snake on our Nokias. We love those phones. They lost out in the handset market, and they've tried a recovery, but they're really now on equipment, and in this case, it's 5G equipment. It's fairly important. Nokia, obviously a global player. It gives MTN a source of the equipment they need to add to existing masks for 5G rollout, which is markedly better so far in my experience than we do get on the LTE 4G networks. An important point is that if we go back 3 years ago or so, 5G was still very new, but most of the equipment was coming from Huawei in China. There were concerns around that. Certainly the European and US governments have been saying, nope, we don't want to use their equipment. So it's important that there are alternatives. Nokia being one, and of course the other big one as well, Siemens, also out of Scandinavia.
Final question to you, Simon. Let's talk about Clientele's interim results. How are they faring?
I thought a good set of numbers in what was definitely a tough period. Now, of course, there's some comparison. We're comparing to December 22 versus December 21. In December 21, we were still fairly thick in the COVID. We just had the Omicron variant coming through. Tough times for them, however, because consumers under pressure. We're able to, frankly, spend less on their products. A lot of people are cashing in products. So really, really tough environment to be operating in, and taking that into account, a modest growth, not setting anything alight, but in those conditions, I think we're seeing it from a lot of the insurers out there who, on the one hand, benefiting as we move out of the pandemic and sort of get back to a level of normalcy, but of course, they're getting hit by consumers who really are struggling out there.
Simon Brown is founder of Just One Lap, and indeed, thank you very much for that markets update.